So you got two chords in the song that you're learning, but you struggle to switch between them smoothly. In this video, I will show you how to find the problem and how to eliminate it so you can easily switch between the chords. So I've got two chords for this lesson, but this can be applied to any pair of chords. The principles here are totally applicable in any situation. So the chords are D, 0, 2, 3, 2, and E major. So we have 0, 2, 2, 1, 0, 0. The first thing we need to do is to find the problem, the reasons why you cannot switch between the chords easily. And some of those reasons could be that your fingers are not cannot keep up with the tempo, or they're not independent enough, so they don't fall in the right place where they need to be. Maybe the chord is too stretchy for you at this point, which obviously can be fixed over time, and similar issues like that. So what I want you to try and just see what is the reason you cannot move between the chord. And the best way to break that is to actually, as you play the chord, as you play the first chord, now keep track of each individual finger and where they go for the second chord. This is really important. So I see that my index finger, let's start with the index finger. My index finger is actually staying on the same string, but it's moving down by a fret. So right? Let's see our middle finger. So middle finger is actually staying on the same fret, but is jumping across 4 strings from the first to the 5th string. So that's quite a bit of a jump. Then we have our ring finger, this string. So it's jumping 1 fret and jumping 2 strings up. So that's, again, quite a big jump. That's the most movement that we get, both string and the fret, or strings and the fret. So as you do this, you may want to see if there are any fingers that stay in the same fret and the same string, so they could be your anchor for the position for the next chord. In this case, we don't really have that, but what we do have is the first finger, index, as I said before, it stays on the same string, just moves down by a fret. And this could be a really great reference point for you to kind of feel your way around the fretboard. I noticed that we don't even have to lift the finger off the string. We can lift it so we're not fretting the string when we're switching between the chords, but we're not actually releasing the string completely. So that becomes your guide in finding your chords. It is quite a conscious approach, but you only need to think about each individual finger until you build the muscle memory and your fingers would just automatically know where they're going. So once you figure out where each individual finger goes, I want you to start practicing it really slowly. So what you want to do is just strum the chord once, make sure that every string rings perfectly and every note sounds as best as it can, and just try to move all of the fingers for the next chord. The key here is not to achieve the fastest speed, but to learn the right finger movement so you can build the right habits in correct and relaxed position. Now, as you practice these chords, I want you to really pay attention to your fingers and make sure that all of them move at the same time and they land on the string at the same time. You want to avoid the ladder effect where each individual finger, they come on a different time, because that's going to slow you down and it's going to make your playing sloppier. So it's really important that all your fingers move to the next chord at the same time. Now, as you practice that and you become more comfortable at a slow speed, you want to increase the speed, of course. but also you have to make sure that your position and posture doesn't change and you're still comfortable playing the chords. So for some variation, you can start adding a little bit more stuff, like maybe a strumming pattern, or maybe strumming 2 times and then changing the chord. The good way to practice would be having a metronome where you put a slow tempo and you change the chord every 4 beats. Then after some time, you change it keep the same tempo, but you change every 2 beats. And then for extra challenge, you change it on every beat. So that would definitely work, improve your timing and challenge your chord switching. So that's really good practice. So metronome will definitely help you, but the key here is to build the right muscle memory, to build the right habits, and so your fingers learn the correct movement. You really want to be careful and take your time with it. So another example of this kind of same principle applied would be 2 chords of C major, but this time we're playing it with a G at the very top or bottom, depends how you look at it, C over G, and a B minor. As you look at them right now, they look very different chords. One is bar chord with the finger completely covering all the strings, and the first one is just an open chord. But there are more similarities than you would think, because this structure right here of middle, index, and pinky are actually the same in the C major chord as it is in a B minor chord. So what happens is that the way I see it is that I actually take these 2 bottom strings, all the fingers, all they need to do is just go down by 2 strings and move them up by 1 fret. That's part of our B minor chord. And all you need to do is just add that first finger to bar on the 2nd fret. And when you see the chords that way, when you see the connection between the 2 chords, it makes it so much easier to understand them, and it's much easier for you to switch between them. So rather than looking for differences, you're actually looking for similarities between the 2 chords. Let's just take another example, which would be G major chord. And then we're going to move it to a C major 7 chord. So now what we actually have 2 fingers that are kind of staying in the same position. We have our index finger still barring the 3rd fret, just adjusting maybe slightly. I kind of tend to adjust for the chords where the root is on the 5th string, but also our middle finger is staying on the same fret and the same string. The most movement is actually happening from the from the ring finger and the pinky. So all you need to really focus is on these 2 fingers. Let's take a more complicated example. So we're going to play an A major chord, open position, and then we're going to go into C sharp minor, which is played at the 4th fret. So these chords, in reality, have no resemblance. All the fingers are moving all over the place. But this is a good exercise because now we actually can break down each individual finger. So first finger, index, is on the 3rd string 2nd fret, but it moves into a bar position. Then our middle finger goes from the 4th string of the 2nd fret to the 5th fret of the 2nd string. So it jumps 2 strings, jumps in an octave actually. Our ring finger is actually jumping the opposite direction from the 2nd fret of the 2nd string to the 6th fret of the 4th string. So these 2 fingers are performing this kind of swap. You could maybe practice this at the beginning. And finally, for the first chord, pinky is not doing much at all. Just creating some shadow, and for the C sharp minor, it's actually jumping on the 3rd string 6th fret. So all of these fingers are doing completely different jobs on both of these chords. So just by breaking these down, it kind of makes it easier for your brain to understand and digest the information that you're feeding it by making these chord changes. With some chords, your fingers might not be ready to be able to execute them, so you may want to try some exercises to strengthen your fingers and to make them a bit stretchier and increase your stamina. It's the most common exercise that you will find everywhere, and I always give it to my students, is the spider exercise, which is basically you allocate one finger per fret on the sixth string, and that's what you do. You just play 1, 2, 3, 4. Once you're done, you jump to the next string. And the key here is once you fret your finger, none of these fingers should be actually leaving the string. So you maintain the position. It's definitely going to feel uncomfortable and difficult at the beginning because your fingers are not stretched enough. But after some time, you'll see the difference and will definitely make your fingers stronger and more independent. So to sum up what you need to do when you struggle to switch between the chords, first you need to find a problem. Fingers too weak, too slow, wrong posture, position, etc. Then you need to figure out where each finger goes during the chord switch. The next thing, practice the actual motion of moving between the two chords. Start really slow and slowly build up the speed, and try to avoid the latter. Next, practice with the metronome for timing and add a simple strumming pattern for variation. And finally, do some general exercises like spider exercise to strengthen your fingers. So there you have it. I hope this was useful when it comes to practicing the chords, and this is the method I actually use myself whenever I face some unusual chord sequences and I struggle to switch between the chords. So this definitely works, well, at least for me. So anyway guys, thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next one.